Asambhavat.
अन्यदाहुर असंभवात्
Anyadahur Asambhavat.
इति शुश्रुमधीराणाम्
Iti Shushrumadhiranam.
येन येनस्तद्विचिचक्षिरे.
Yenastad Vichichakshire.
Yes. Would someone like to read?
May I read?
Yes, please.
Krishna. It is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another result is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this is heard from the undisturbed authorities, who clearly explained it. The system of hearing from undisturbed authorities is approved in this mantra. Unless one hears from a bona fide acharya, who is never disturbed by the changes of the material world, one cannot have the real key to transcendental knowledge. The bona fide spiritual master, who has also heard the Shruti mantras or Vedic knowledge from his undisturbed acharya, never presents anything that is not mentioned in the Vedic literature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that those who worship the teachers or forefathers attain the planets of the forefathers. That the gross materialists who make plans to remain here stay in this world, and that the devotees of the Lord who worship none but Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes, reach him in his spiritual sky. Here, also in Sri Isopanishad, it is verified that one achieves different results by different modes of worship. If we worship the Supreme Lord, we will certainly reach him in his eternal abode. And if we worship demigods like the sun god or moon god, we can reach their respective planets without a doubt. And if we wish to remain on this wretched planet with our planning commissions and our stopgap political adjustments, we can certainly do that also. Nowhere in authentic scriptures it is said that one will ultimately reach the same goal by doing anything or worshipping anyone. Such foolish theories are offered by self-made spiritual masters who have no connection with the parampara, the bona fide system of disciplic succession. The bona fide spiritual master cannot say that all paths lead to the same goal and that anyone can attain this goal by his own mode of worship of the demigods or of the supreme or whatever. Any common man can very easily understand that a person can reach his destination only when he has purchased a ticket for that destination. A person who has purchased a ticket for Calcutta can reach Calcutta, but not Bombay. But the so-called spiritual masters say that any and all paths will take one to the supreme goal. Such mundane and compromising offers attract many foolish creatures who become puffed up with their manufactured methods of spiritual realization. The Vedic instructions, however, do not uphold them. Unless one has received knowledge from the bona fide spiritual master, who is in the recognized line of disciplic succession, one cannot have the real thing as it is. Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Avam parampara praptam, imam rajarsayo vidu, sa kalenaya mahata, yoganasta parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. The science as it is appears to be lost. When Lord Sri Krishna was present on this earth, the Bhakti Yoga principles defined in the Bhagavad Gita had become distorted. Therefore, the Lord had to re-establish the disciplic system, beginning with Arjuna, who was the most confidential friend and devotee of the Lord. The Lord clearly told Arjuna that it was because Arjuna was his devotee and friend that he could understand the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. In other words, only the Lord's devotee and friend can understand the Gita. This also means that only one who follows the path of Arjuna can understand the Bhagavad Gita. At the present moment, there are many interpreters and translators of this supreme dialogue who care nothing for Lord Krishna or Arjuna. Such interpreters explain the verses of the Bhagavad Gita in their own way and postulate all sorts of rubbish in the name of the Gita. Such interpreters believe neither in Sri Krishna nor in his eternal abode. How then can they explain the Bhagavad Gita? Krishna clearly says that only those who have lost their sense worship to the demigods for paltry rewards. Ultimately, he advises that one give up all other ways and modes of worship and fully surrender unto him alone. Only those who are cleansed of all sinful reactions can have such unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. Others will continue hovering on the material platform with their paltry ways of worship and thus will be misled from the real path under the false impression that all paths lead to the same goal. In this mantra of Sri Isopanishad, the word Sambhavat, by worship of the Supreme Cause, is very significant. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and everything that exists has emanated from him. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mada sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Here is a correct description of the Supreme Lord given by the Lord himself. The words Sarvashya Prabhava indicate that Krishna is the creator of everyone, including Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And because these three principal deities of the material world are created by the Lord is the creator of all that exists in the material and spiritual worlds. In the Atharva Veda, it is similarly said, he who existed before the creation of Brahma and who enlightened Brahma with Vedic knowledge is Lord Sri Krishna. Similarly, the Narayana Upanishad states, then the Supreme Person Narayana desired to create all living beings. Thus from Narayana, Brahma was born. Narayana created all the Prajapatis. Narayana created Indra. Narayana created the 8 Vasus. Narayana created the 11 Rudras. Narayana created the 12 Adityas. Since Narayana is a plenary manifestation of Lord Krishna, Narayana and Krishna are one and the same. And Narayana Upanishad also states, Devaki's son, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. The identity of Narayana with the Supreme Cause has also been accepted and confirmed by Sripada Sankaracharya, even though Shankara does not belong to the Vaishnava or personalist cult. The Atharva Veda also states only Narayana existed in the beginning when neither Brahma nor Shiva nor fire nor water nor stars nor sun nor moon existed. The Lord does not remain alone but creates as he desires. Krishna himself states in the Moksha Dharma, I created the Prajapatis and the Rudras. They do not have complete knowledge of me because they are covered by my illusory energy. It is also stated in the Varaha Purana, Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him the four-headed Brahma was manifested, as well as Rudra, who later became omniscient. Thus, all Vedic literature confirms that Narayana, or Krishna, is the cause of all causes. In the Brahma Samchita, also it is said that the Supreme Lord is Sri Krishna, Govinda, the delighter of every living being, and the primeval cause of all causes. The really learned persons who know this from evidence given by the great sages and the Vedas, and thus they decide to worship Lord Krishna as all in all. Such persons are called Buddha, or really learned, because they worship only Krishna. The conviction that Krishna is all in all is established when one hears the transcendental message from the undisturbed Acharya with faith and love. One who has no faith in or love for Lord Krishna cannot be convinced of this simple truth. Those who are faithless are described in the Bhagavad Gita as mudhas, fools or asses. It is said that the mudhas deride the personality of Godhead because they do not have complete knowledge from the undisturbed Acharya. One who is disturbed by the whirlpool of material energy is not qualified to become an Acharya. Before hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was disturbed by the material whirlpool, by his affection for his family, society, and community. Thus, Arjuna wanted to become a philanthropic, non-violent man of the world. But when he became Buddha by hearing the Vedic knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Person, he changed his decision and became a worshipper of Lord Shri Krishna, who had himself arranged the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna worshipped the Lord by fighting with his so-called relatives, and in this way he became a pure devotee of the Lord. Such accomplishments are possible only when one worships the real Krishna and not some fabricated Krishna invented by foolish men who are without knowledge of the intricacies of the science of Krishna. Can you scroll slightly upwards? Yeah. Invented by foolish men who are without knowledge of the intricacies of the science of Krishna described in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. According to the Vedanta Sutra, Sambhuta is the source of birth and sustenance, as well as the reservoir that remains after annihilation. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, maintains that the source of all emanations is not like a dead stone, but is abhijja, or fully conscious. The primeval Lord Sri Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that he is fully conscious of past, present, and future, and that no one, including demigods such as Shiva and Brahma, know him fully. Certainly, half-educated spiritual leaders who are disturbed by the tides of material existence cannot know him fully. They try to make some compromise by making the mass of humanity the object of worship, but they do not know that such worship is only a myth because the masses are imperfect. The attempt by these so-called spiritual leaders is something like pouring water on the leaves of a tree instead of the root. The natural process is to pour water on the root, but such disturbed leaders are more attracted to the leaves than the root. Despite their perpetually watering the leaves, however, everything dries up for want of nourishment. Sri Isopanishad advises us to pour water on the root, the source of all germination. Worship of the mass of humanity by rendering bodily service, which can never be perfect, is less important than service to the soul. The soul is the root that generates different types of bodies according to the law of karma. To serve human beings by medical aid, social help, and educational facilities, while at the same time cutting the throats of poor animals in slaughterhouses, is no service at all to the soul, the living being. The living being is perpetually suffering in different types of bodies from material miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. The human form of life offers one a chance to get out of this entanglement simply by re-establishing the lost relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. The Lord comes personally to teach this philosophy of surrender unto the Supreme, the Sambhuta. Real service to humanity is rendered when one teaches surrender to and worship of the Supreme Lord with full love and energy. That is the instruction of Sri Isopanishad in this mantra. The simple way to worship the Supreme Lord in this age of disturbance is to hear and chant about his great activities. The mental speculators, however, think that the activities of the Lord are imaginary. Therefore, they refrain from hearing of them and invent some word jugglery without any substance to divert the attention of the innocent mass. Instead of hearing the activities of Lord Krishna, such pseudo-spiritual masters advertise themselves by inducing their followers to sing about them. In modern times, the number of such pretenders has increased considerably, and it has become a problem for the pure devotees of the Lord to save the masses of people from the unholy propaganda of these pretenders and pseudo-incarnations. The Upanishads indirectly draw our attention to the primeval Lord, Sri Krishna, but the Bhagavad Gita, which is the summary of all the Upanishads, directly points to Sri Krishna. Therefore, one should hear about Krishna as he is by hearing from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, and in this way one's mind will gradually be cleansed of all contaminated things. Srimad Bhagavatam says, by hearing of the activities of the Lord, the devotee draws the attention of the Lord. Thus the Lord, being situated in the heart of every living being, helps the devotee by giving him proper directions. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Tadami buddhi yogam tam yanam am upyanti te. Could you scroll, please? Hare Krishna. The Lord's inner direction cleanses the devotee's heart of all contamination produced by the material modes of passion and ignorance. Non-devotees are under the sway of passion and ignorance. One who is in passion cannot become detached from material hankering, and one who is in ignorance cannot know what he is or what the Lord is. Thus, when one is in passion or ignorance, there is no chance for self-realization. We'll just scroll a little bit upwards. However, much one may play the part of religionist. For a devotee, the modes of passion and ignorance are removed by the grace of the Lord. In this way, the devotee becomes situated in the quality of goodness, the sign of a perfect Brahmana. Anyone can qualify as a Brahmana if he follows the path of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Srimad Bhagavatam also says, Kirata Punanthara Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumha Yavana Shadaya Yanya Cha Baba Yad Apu Pasha Shriya Sirkyanti Tasmai Prabha Vishnava Nama. Any low-born person can be purified by the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord, for the Lord is extraordinarily powerful. When one attains Brahminical qualifications, he becomes happy and enthusiastic to render devotional service to the Lord. Automatically, the science of God is unveiled before him. By knowing the science of God, one gradually becomes freed from material attachments, and one's doubtful mind becomes crystal clear by the grace of the Lord. One who attains this stage is a liberated soul and can see the Lord in every step of life. This is the perfection of Sambhava, as described in this mantra of Sri Isopanishad. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much. So, it is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another result is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this is heard from the undisturbed authorities who clearly explained it. Iti Shushrama Dhiranam Yasnetat Vichachakshire. It's perfectly explained. See, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. Mama vartamanu manushya path sarvasha. In all respects, everyone follows my paths. Everyone follows what Krishna has given. Now, so what is Srila Prabhupada actually trying to explain here? That unless one hears from a bona fide acharya who is never disturbed by the changes of the material world, one cannot have the real key to transcendental knowledge. Please try to understand this. This is a very complex topic, so I'll just try to touch it. See, the whole cosmos, material or spiritual, is absolute truth. Everything. And the living entity being Brahman is a part of that absolute truth. Within this material world, so there are only two principles actually: attraction to Krishna, forgetfulness of Krishna. Attraction to Krishna means being in Krishna consciousness, being in pure spiritual life, being in Vaikuntha. And forgetfulness of Krishna, Vismriti. The living entity is lost in this world. Because outside of Krishna, there is only Maya or Bahiranga Shakti. The living entities, when one does not see Krishna, one sees this Bahiranga Shakti. And this Bahiranga Shakti or Prakriti is very confusing. Because in this Prakriti, the living entity has no control over his mind or his desires. The living entity by nature is always seeking pleasure. Sarve sukhina bhavantu. And always trying to become blissful. Anandamayo bhyasat. Now, what happens is, when it is in the association of Krishna, this energy is under control. Because Krishna is the absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme attractor. Govinda. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchid Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karan Karanam. In the Brahma Samhita it is said. So if we see the nature of Krishna, Anadir Adir, he has no beginning and no end, and he is Govinda. He is bringing pleasure to the senses. He's the source of all happiness. He's the source of all pleasure. Govinda. So when the living entity is attracted by Govinda, then he's in perfect position. Then there is no Maya. Then the living entity is in his blissful situation. But when Govinda is not present, by the forgetfulness of the living entity's desire to seek pleasure is still there. The desire to be Anandamai, desire to be happy is still there. But because the origin of happiness, Govinda, is not there, the living entity only sees it in Maya, Bahiranga Shakti. And thus, he starts becoming attracted to the three modes. Dahivi Esha Gurmai Mama Maya Duratyaya. It's very difficult to overcome. And why is this energy so difficult to overcome? Because the living entity only knows this energy. The living entity on his own cannot understand Krishna. So the living entity in the material world may speculate, may reach the platform of goodness, or may descend to the platform of ignorance. But in any case, he is always under illusion. So in this illusion, sometimes the living entity is in goodness and he's thinking of Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Sometimes he is thinking, I am this body, Deha Atma Buddhi. And in this way, he's moving up and down this universe. But when the same living entity comes in contact with Krishna, then he immediately can see his original position. So in that situation, then he is immediately fixed. But because by nature the living entity is always active, if he is not able to see Krishna, he will wander within this material world. So how does one actually find Krishna? Brahmand Brahmite Kaun Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. So by some special mercy of the Lord, one may meet a bona fide spiritual master, and by meeting that spiritual master, one's original consciousness would be revived, and he would be again able to go back to Godhead. So such a bona fide spiritual master is rare to find. But why is he considered bona fide? Because he's a pure soul. He is self-realized. He knows what his position is. His Sarupa Siddha. So therefore, he knows his own position and he can see the position of the living entity and he can awaken him to that consciousness. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunaye Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte Karaye Uday. So this spiritual, bona fide spiritual master reawakens this love of Godhead within the heart of the living entity. The living entity actually still has love for Krishna, but he has completely forgotten. Under the spell of Maya, under the influence of Maya, he cannot remember. Therefore, he is wandering here and there, but the bona fide spiritual master can revive that consciousness. So how does one approach the spiritual master? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. By rendering service and by making genuine inquiries. So Prabhupada says that in this verse, uh, two things are condemned. Making absurd inquiries and blind following and making absurd inquiries. Both are condemned. Yes, so like for example, if there's a spiritual master, we should not become blind. Oh, such and such Swami is very much worshipped by thousands of people. I'll also worship him. No, you have to ask questions. You have to convince yourself. This material world is a place of illusion. Everything here is illusory. Who you consider bona fide may be actually simply an illusioned soul himself. So therefore, you must make bona fide inquiries and satisfy yourself that this soul is bona fide. So make bona fide inquiries and then you surrender to him. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. He is tattvadarshi. He has seen the absolute truth, so he can conduct you to that absolute truth. Now, in this process, one should not fall prey to one's own imagination. Okay, of course, there are these bogus Babajis, Ammajis, and Gurujis in India who are teaching nonsense. Like there's this famous motorcycle guru, what is his name? Jaggi Vasudev. Preaches nonsense. He's just preaching nonsense. He's playing cricket, flying helicopters, riding motorcycles. I think he even drinks coffee or something. And he just speaks some nonsense, one random Upanishad here, some Puran there. Sometimes he talks of Shiva, sometimes he talks of Krishna. And people follow this because people want a cheap nonsense. People want some cheap relief. So they follow bogus gurus. But a genuine person should understand. So, for example, like Prabhupada gives this example of taking a ticket for Calcutta and reaching Calcutta, but not Bombay. So, you see, the living entity within this material world, with his covered intelligence, is only seeing Maya. And in this Maya, his mind is directing him here and there. Whatever, like sometimes he's under the spell of goodness, the living entity is attracted to holy places. Then again, under the spell of passion, he becomes attracted to places of activities like cinemas and theaters. And then gradually, when it descends to ignorance, then he goes to ghastly places like butcheries and this alcohol bars and prostitution dens. In this way, different modes of nature are attracting him in different directions at all the times. A person in a particular mode cannot understand what the person in other mode is thinking. Like, sometimes when I'm here in downtown Helsinki, I have seen, there are these drug addicts lying dirty, like, filthy on the sidewalks or something. And you see these gentlemen driving their cars and looking at them with disdain, oh, what a nonsensical person. But that person who's driving the car himself is in the mode of passion. He may look down upon the person in the mode of ignorance, but he's not able to understand what a mode of person in the mode of goodness is feeling like. That's the arrangement of Maya, that you become satisfied in your position. Even a pig who is eating stool is satisfied with his position. He does not think that stool is something obnoxious. He actually enjoys it. Like for example, sometimes when we go to these big shopping malls or restaurants, you can smell the horrible smells coming from meat, half cooked or raw meat. But there are people who relish it because they're in the mode of ignorance. They're able to relish that. So one's own mind will direct one here and there. So similarly, a person who may be well situated in knowledge, if he has not been able to conquer the three modes, cannot be a guru. One may be a guru, one may have understood some part of the science of Krishna, but if one is still listening to the dictates of his own mind, he is still susceptible to Maya. Such a person cannot be a bona fide spiritual master. Such a person can at best be a pathapradarshak, one who shows you the path, or can give you some part of shiksha, but he can never be a bona fide spiritual master. So one should not follow a person who is himself under the spell of Maya, because such a person is himself like a ghost. Such a person is himself susceptible to different modes of nature. How can he deliver you? So therefore, here Srila Prabhupada is advising that one follows a bona fide spiritual master who has surrendered to Krishna and who knows his particular position with respect to Krishna. Such a person can show you your respective place with respect to Krishna and deliver you from this material world. So spiritual master means someone who is linking you with Krishna. So for people like us, then what is our position? Where do we find this bona fide spiritual master? So we have him here in the form of Srila Prabhupada. So when we talk about preaching this message of Krishna, what we mean is that we connect people to this science of Krishna consciousness as given by Srila Prabhupada. Anyone can be a guru. Amare agya hai guru, tara hai desh, Mahaprabhu is saying. So, and then he says, before this, he says, Jare dekha tare kaha Krishna Pradesh. So, how do we do this when we have not seen Krishna? So, it's very easy. We have the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. Connect people with these books, connect them with this knowledge. And in this way, you are also well qualified to be a guru. Don't deviate from the principles given by Srila Prabhupada and don't deviate from the knowledge that he has given. Don't change anything. And then whatever you represent is pure spiritual knowledge. Hare Krishna. Yes. Any questions or comments here? Yes, Simon Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So I'm trying to understand where the misunderstanding is coming from for quite a lot of people, in a sense that here, for example, it was also mentioned, meeting a bona fide spiritual master and making inquiries, so asking questions. So the problem is that a lot of people might understand this in a bodily conception, in the sense that this has to be a living person currently present in front of you, and that you ask him the question and you get a physical sound answer. So I guess that's how a lot of people understand it, right? So then here you say that of course, the bona fide spiritual master is Srila Prabhupada. So then the asking in questions to Srila Prabhupada, that becomes a different experience. It's not like asking a question to a human. So it requires still some kind of understanding that the way you get the answer, it's not by words, or it can be transferred through any person, even like non-devotee or high qualified devotee, or it can be some kind of situation. There are many ways, and also it depends on perception of individual's mind, how to understand those answers. So this is probably difficult for some people, and they tend to take shelter of a living human being with that kind of status. So yeah, how does it come that in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam there is quite many times mentioned the bona fide spiritual master, but still the wording is such that some people understand it as a living person. So that's the problem. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, no, there's not much confusion. I mean, of course, if anyone wants to be confused, they will get confused. Mm. But it's very clear. So you see, for example, now here I'm sitting here with you and I'm discussing this book. So that's our service and that's all preaching that I am capable of doing. So I'm like a physical via media for you. But the knowledge is coming from Srila Prabhupada and the objective is to take you back to him. Of course, like if you ask me what is the meaning of the word Swarupa Siddhi, you can do a quick Google search and find out. You could also look through Prabhupada's books. But you can ask me because I have done that. I can directly tell you what Swarup Siddhi means. But if you ask me what does Krishna look like, then I can't tell you that. So because right now neither am I qualified, nor are you in a position to see Krishna. But if you follow the process which is given in these books, one day you will be in a position to see Krishna also. So my job is to connect you to these books so that you can follow the principles. Like when you go to primary school, the primary school teacher understands the primary school subjects. The secondary school teacher understands the secondary subjects. A university professor will understand the university subjects. And a doctoral guide will understand much higher topics. So each have their level of qualification and each of them are guiding you to the right path. The person who's doing a postdoctoral study has also gone through primary school at some point. The importance of primary school teacher does not vanish because the student has now become a doctor or something, because some other will be following the same path. So just like that, we accept this, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that out of respect for my primary school teacher, I never graduate to secondary school. No, I have to give respect to the teacher and then move on. So that is exactly what our position is. So all of you connect to Srila Prabhupada, and then as your knowledge deepens and matures, you continue studying his books deeper and deeper. And by mercy of Krishna, you will find someone who would be able to guide you further. So that's the whole mission. So yes, there are so many misunderstandings in this path also. You need a living guru. That's a very nonsensical assertion. Guru is never dead. When we say that you need a living guru, what we are also implying is that Srila Prabhupada is dead, or Bhakti Vinod Thakur is dead, or Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is dead, which is very offensive. So this is a sign of ignorance. What we should say, yes, that you need a representative to connect you to Srila Prabhupada, because right now Prabhupada is unmanifest to you. So to connect you to Prabhupada, once you are connected, then you continue following Srila Prabhupada. It's not that you become stuck there. You don't stick around with primary school teacher because you like that teacher or you respect him. You move on to secondary. You move on to higher secondary. You move on to university. Hare Krishna. Does that clarify your doubt, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so we stop here today, unless someone else has a question or something. Okay. If not, then we stop here today. We continue on Wednesday. So thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Srila
Hare
Prabhupada
Krishna
ki
Prabhu.
jai.
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandat
Hare
Pranam, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.